Hello and welcome to the Lifestyle Evolution Podcast. My name is Joshua Laycock. So, I had a few people reach out to me and ask if I would talk about my version, the version that I use of creating a personal vision for yourself. And yeah, it was cool. I did a few podcasts a while ago on other people's podcasts where I've talked about how to craft a vision and how that process can actually help drive you towards the things that you really want. Um, and I got a lot of traction out of it. And it's something that I talk with my clients about a fair bit. So I thought, yeah, why not revive that conversation? And then, some of those were a few years old. What would I change? What have I learned? How has it evolved over time? So let me start by kind of saying what, for me, a vision is not. And rather than saying I think it's wrong, it's maybe an incomplete process for a lot of people. A vision for me is not a vision board. It's not a Pinterest thing. It's not a bunch of pictures up on the wall that motivates me to have certain things. It started like that, and there are components of it that still exist. Like I'm still inspired by certain things, but what a lot of people I think make the mistake of is they pick very material things that they hope will drive them forward. Often it's a house or cars or a number in their bank account or a title at work or something. And look, while I think that those things can have some short-term incentives and can maybe create a bit of drive, I'm not entirely convinced, at least for me, that they are sustainable in the long run and that they're going to accomplish what you had hoped it would do, which is to create a drive or a force or an energy within you that helps you push through the hard things, that helps you push through the times where you don't want to do the work or where maybe you're losing sight of why. The other time that this comes into play is when you've achieved those things, the car, the house, the bank account, you know, whatever that thing is for you. I can almost guarantee you, based on my experience, that you will not then instantly be satisfied and contented and live this blissful life. And in fact, many people, when they achieve these goals or these things that they want, actually become even more frustrated and confused, and in some cases, almost unhinged because it didn't bring them the thing that they thought it was going to bring. So let me tell you a story about how I came about this process. And this isn't my own process. I've drawn on a lot of different people and a lot of different views on how to motivate and how to find discipline and how to, create visions and processes and find your passion and all those sorts of things. Just playing around with it. I'd always been, in love with Land Rovers. I just do. There's something about, particularly like the old Defenders, there's something rugged, there's something adventurous, there's also some prestige around them. It's just something that's always caught my eye. I've always enjoyed them. And I got to a point in my life not that long ago where financially I could go and buy one. Not with cash. I'm not pretending like I'm a baller, like, oh yeah, but I could have. Just like if I'd gone into Toyota to negotiate buying or leasing a vehicle, I could have very easily have gone into Land Rover and had a Land Rover sitting in my driveway. But the thought never even crossed my mind. And that was fascinating to me. I thought this thing that has driven me, that's motivated me for so long, that I've always thought has would be the pinnacle of my success, having this vehicle in my driveway. Why is it now that when I can have it, I don't really want it? Or rather, if it was going to bring me all the things that I thought it would, why wouldn't I just go out and get it? And I said, okay, so then under what circumstances might I actually consider buying this vehicle? And I was doing the math on financial milestones and things I'd want to accomplish and the kind of impact in my life I'd like to have. And it got into things like financial stability and safety and being able to provide for not only my family, but my extended family. And it was a really interesting journey. And what I came to the conclusion, at least at the time, was that when I am in a position financially where all of the concerns, all of the insecurities that I had around money were gone, when I was so unbelievably confident in my own abilities to continue to earn lots of money, and that I would spend money on a vehicle like that with the same amount of almost indifference that I would spend buying a coffee in the morning or going out to lunch. And I thought, well, that's really interesting because the themes that kept popping up were safety, predictability, and being able to have confidence in myself. Well, that was fascinating to me. So I started to explore the emotions behind these things and realized that what I was really craving wasn't this truck, but an emotion and a sense of contentment and peace and confidence within myself that I could act and respond and operate in a certain way in this world that I had now created so much financial slack that I could spend this money on a vehicle. This isn't about the vehicle, right? This is about an exploration of like, why is it that all my boards and all the screens behind my computers had Land Rovers? It's not about the Land Rover. It's not about the title. It's not about the job. It's not about the house. What I learned through a lot of reading and a lot of meditation and introspection and journaling is that I'm seeking certain emotional states that will give me joy and peace and contentment. But in order for that to really work, I knew I was going to have to get really, really intimately connected to those feelings. The example that I often use is with my wife. I talk pretty openly about my relationship and work that we've done and how important it is to me. And it would be easy to say, you know what, I want to be married forever. I don't ever want to get a divorce. I want us to be really close, intimate our entire lives. And that's enough for me to motivate me to continue to work on my relationship. But the words feel empty because I don't know anyone who enters into a marriage who doesn't think those things, right? Who doesn't get married and go, this is my forever. But we also know that that's just not true. And we also know that while a lot of people want or say that their relationship is a priority for them, our actions don't back it up. So for me, a lot of this practice takes place meditating, sitting quietly, thinking, getting inside my head, which I know for a lot of people is uncomfortable. And as I reflected on my marriage and my relationship with my wife and what I really wanted, almost out of nowhere came this image of her and I in our 90s, sitting on a park bench, holding hands, feeling so marvelously at peace with each other, and being so unbelievably connected that we feed each other, that we complete each other, that we make each other feel safe, and that we really belong in that space. And as I sat with this image and I really allowed myself to go deep, I could smell the park, I could hear the birds, I could feel her hand in mine, the warmth of it. And I really just dropped into this deep, unconditional feeling of love and belonging and acceptance. And that feeling, that like gives me the shivers when I think about it. That is my vision for my marriage. It's not some milestone. If I could feel that tomorrow, and to be honest, I can, then I know I'm where I need to be. And it serves a couple purpose because if or it serves some different purposes. If you're not in that place, it can provide you with something to strive for. Because once you get a taste of that, you can't let it go. But also, if you are sitting there and you can really reflect on how that makes you feel in the moment, then you also know that there's no way in hell that you're going to give that up. There's no way in hell that you're going to do something that's going to compromise that. And you can start to realize how unbelievably fortunate you are to be in a place, even if only for a moment, where you completely belong, where you're completely content, and that you are precisely where you need to be. So, what does this mean for you? As you start to cultivate your vision for your ideal life, for your evolved lifestyle, we start with the basics. We start with like a wheel of life. What are the things that actually really matter to me? And where am I at in that space? Am I crushing it? Is it languishing? Am I just in a maintenance mode? And then what we start to do is, so for me, my process is I sit in meditation and I start to reflect on my beautiful ideal day. Not necessarily like a day on vacation where it's, I get up and I lay on the beach and life is good and the sun is on my face. Although cool, that's your thing. But I'm talking about what would an idyllic average day look like for me. And in time, that journey goes deeper. So I start with what would I love to do? What would an ideal day do? So you get up at a certain time. Maybe you get a workout in. Maybe you're there when your kids wake up and you're making them breakfast. You're on your own schedule. Maybe you have time in the morning to write, for me to write or to create content, and an opportunity to walk the dogs at lunch and go for a walk with my wife, who is also working from home in this beautiful vision. And we're hanging out. And what does that house look like? And what does it feel like? And I walk myself through perfect day. And then as I sit in meditation about that perfect day, I go deeper. I feel tactically, what does that feel like? What does what does it feel like to wake up in that morning in my bed, knowing the day ahead of me is inviting me into something amazing? What do I smell? What do I hear? What does the flooring feel like under my feet? What's the smell in the morning when the coffee's kicking up? Or the sound of my dogs coming to get excited because I'm awake and they know, oh my God, dad's up. Let's go run. What is that feeling of my daughter who's in her nightgown, kind of slumbering and wandering into the kitchen? What does she smell? What does she feel? How do I feel when I see her in the morning? How do I feel when I wake my son up and I open the lights or open the blinds and the sun hits him in the face? How does that make me feel? The warmth of him when I rub his back to try to wake him up before school. Like these moments, I make them so visceral to me that beyond the sensory, beyond the taste and the feel and the smell and the sight of it all, I start to recognize that my body will start to feel certain things. It will start to feel content, at peace, slow, purposeful, connected. And over time, what really motivates me and drives me is not the day, but that deep feeling of gratitude and contentment and peace. And I sit with that And some days it almost moves me to tears because that is my vision. Doesn't matter what car I drive, what house I have. It doesn't matter the physical trappings that are around me. What matters to me is that my body can get to a state of peace and contentment in a moment. And then I ask myself, am I doing the things that are necessary to move me towards that state for myself, spiritually, physically, emotionally, relationally, financially? Am I doing those things? Am I making progress? It is incredible what a vision can do to motivate you. There was a while where I was into CrossFit, and I really struggled with the long workouts, where there was no break. And when I was in the middle of those workouts and I was struggling and I wanted to quit, I would actually envision my children watching me, cheering me on from the stands, how they must have felt watching their dad do these things and connecting to that sense of strength and power and leadership and pride that I would love for my kids to have when they see me doing these hard things. That connection with those emotions would fuel me. It's like another gear. I would just drop down and I would go, and it would come out of nowhere, right? I think we are deeply connected to moments in this world that are very potent when it comes to the emotional imprint that it leaves on us. This, I think, is true of trauma, right? Highly charged events that leave an emotional imprint on us, I think, can be classified as traumatic if it's something that is negative, and if we're not able to process those emotions and those physical sensations in our body. But we can also remember beautiful moments of our past that bring us joy, that are exciting. It's like, how many people remember a star performance in high school, like sport wise, or even asking that girl out for the first time, or the first time she said yes, or the first time she said no, or all of those things, all those firsts, all those scary moments, all those things that are emotionally charged. They're huge. And so many of us live our lives looking backwards, either reminiscing over the good old days or wishing we could have done things differently. And what we do is we continue to fan the flames of those past emotional charges. We continue to kind of breathe life into them. And while there are moments and there's a lot of joy in some of those memories, I think they can actually create a gravity that is backwards. It creates this element of pull and resistance to moving forward because we spend so much time connected to the emotions of the past. And even in the moment when we're connected with our emotions, they're typically fear about things that are going to happen, or possibly even some excitement around what might happen. But again, that's the moment. It's right here and now. And it doesn't necessarily drive us to do great things, at least for me. So what has worked for me is this practice that I've just described to you very briefly. It's a very integrated, long process that I would say probably has had a good grounding and a good success with maybe 70 to 80% of my clients. Some clients just don't get it. They're just not, and that's not a criticism. It's just not how their minds think. It's not how they want to be wired. So it's not for everybody. But a lot of people have found some joy and peace and potency in this process. So when I can sit and I can sit in the emotions of this future state, it could be next week, next month, 10 years from now, I don't know. But when I can sit with it and I can allow it to really get inside of me, really to change my DNA, to be a part of who I am, then now I'm creating this gravity that is in the future. I'm creating this pull because once you get a taste of it, again, there's no way you're going to let that go. So you find these moments in the future and you connect with them and you allow them to change you, and they become essentially like future memories, like they imprint on you, and you're able to use that to then counteract some of this gravity pulling you backwards. And it's a bit out there, a bit esoteric, but if you think about it, right? There are things in life that hold us back: unfinished business, longing, pain, joy. How many times have you looked back on a past relationship and you sort of reminisce about all the good times, but you forget about the negative things? Or if you're in a really bad mood today and you look backwards and you don't remember the good, but you only kind of remember the negative. Like all of our memories and everything is so charged with emotion. Everything is so unbelievably charged that we're living looking in the rearview mirror. We're pulled to those moments because they're powerful. So what you need to do is you need to start creating powerful moments now and then connecting to the future possibility of what those powerful moments are going to look like. And if you allow them in and you really open your mind to that possibility, and you take the time and have the patience and the courage to work through it and get to that spot where you can feel it, then all of a sudden that same power that's pulling you backwards is now firing you forward like a bullet from a gun. And you can tap into that feeling whenever you need to pull you ahead. But it starts with really recognizing the emotions that you're feeling. And for some of us, for a lot of us, that's hard. I always joke like men are allowed to feel like angry, happy, hungry, and horny. That's kind of it, right? Psychology does what? Glad, mad, sad. It's pretty basic stuff. How many men talk about joy, talk about peace, talk about contentment, talk about confidence? I think confidence is also an emotion. I could be wrong, but this is what I think. I think, right? Confidence is that sensation that you have when you know that you can rely on yourself to accomplish whatever is needed. So as you can get more intimately connected with the emotions that you're feeling, and then start to explore the emotions that you'd like to feel more of, then you just reverse engineer that. It's not easy, but you just reverse engineer this process to a point where you can have your version of sitting on a bench with your spouse 50 years from now, knowing that you are exactly where you need to be, that you are with the right people, that your life's purpose is leading you down a path of contentment and fulfillment, that you've done the work that it takes to get to that point. Because life's not just going to hand this to you, right? Now, here's the dangerous part about this process. If you are a daydreamer, you can get stuck in the process of daydreaming about this beautiful future and then not do anything about it. You could sit there in meditation hours a day, blissing out in this future reality that you haven't yet earned or crafted or curated yet. The vision process is simply a catalyst for action. If it does not propel you forward into action, then I would recommend you not do it or really reevaluate if you are connected to the right things. If you're connected to what you should want, what you feel you ought to want, as opposed to really what your heart is saying to you. Because I know people who can get real comfortable in those daydreams. I've spent time in my life just daydreaming, and it can be a glorious but dysfunctional escape to the real life. If you're someone who's struggling to see the optimism and the positivity in life, don't find joy in the things that you used to find, then I would strongly urge you to reach out to a therapist and talk to them about what you're feeling and why you're feeling it. Sometimes those rearward facing gravity wells, they need guidance to undo, to take away their power. Sometimes this is just not a journey we can walk alone. But we have two tasks, right? To begin, we have identify and recognize those anchors, the things that are holding us back, and take steps to try to minimize the hold that they have on us. And then we create this future that is burning so bright that it's just pulling us forward like a moth to the flame. We have to do both. And sometimes, look, when the past is so heavy, you need help. You need time to unpack it, do the trauma work, maybe to discharge that energy, to work your way through it, allow it to change you, to come through it, to take away some of its potency over you. And then that will also allow this other work that you're going to do to either one, happen a little bit more easily, or two, allow it to have an impact on you, to wash over you. But the simple step is, I would say, one, if your goals are tied to numbers, things, I think one of two things is either going to happen, right? You're going to get to this point and you're going to realize I'm the same person. I still feel the same way. Why didn't that change anything? One, I think you'll either be demoralized by it and be like, well, then what's wrong with me? If getting this thing, getting this title, getting this money, getting the girl, getting the car, getting the whatever doesn't make you feel awesome, something must be wrong with me. Not true. Or, like what a lot of people do, we like the thrill of the hunt. So we then self-sabotage, bring ourselves back down, and then we chase the same thing again. I see it time and time again with weight loss, right? I want to lose weight so I look good in a bathing suit for my trip to Mexico. So when you lose the weight, you feel good for a moment or two, but then nothing really changes because you haven't really tapped into what was really going on with you. And all of a sudden, that chase is gone. I'm not connected to why I think that I deserve to have a healthy, happy body. So I put the weight back on again. And then when the next thing comes along, you chase it again. And we kind of get these quick hits of success, but we're not actually elevating. We're rising and falling, rising and falling, rising and falling. We're staying in that same plane. We're not elevating. So when you connect this future to numbers, to something like that, it's easy because how many people out there are telling you like all of your goals have to be measurable and time limited and all those things? And like, look, you can break this big thing down into small chunks. You have to. But when all you have are the small chunks and you're not really connected to something more potent and more powerful, then it's just small little blocks that don't actually lead anywhere. And they also don't validate whether these blocks are leading you in the right direction, if you're following the right thing, or what other work might I be needing to do to get me to a place where I'm feeling powerful. For a lot of men, it's tough to start with the emotion, to connect and to feel it in your body. For some, it's scary. Maybe I think I'm just never going to achieve that. I can almost tell you assuredly you're not going to achieve it unless you have the courage to put it out there and say, this is what I want. This is what I want to feel. And then it also takes the courage if that little voice inside your head is like, nope, you're worthless. Nope, you don't deserve that. Nope, that's not for you. Then there's something else going on there. And you work with a therapist to search and destroy those things, to understand them, to shine light on them, and to start changing some of those thoughts. But it all requires that you have a destination And I do believe very strongly that that destination needs to be anchored in emotion and presence, not in things. And this is the journey. It's a therapeutic journey. It's a coaching journey for a lot of the folks that I work with. This is a huge overarching theme that we talk about. So if that's interesting to you, if you find that fascinating or you just have a clue what the hell I'm talking about, I get it. Reach out. Let's have a conversation. But it starts, if you think of it from a, like, what are my steps? Where are you now? What are the things that are important to you? What elements of your life are important to you? What does that life coming together look like? Write it out, talk it out, meditate it, whatever, however you need to get it out. What does it look like? And then sink into that world and move beyond the visual trappings of what that thing looks like. Literally start to try to smell it, feel it, taste it, touch it. Get into it. And then as you immerse yourself in that beautiful life that you have created for you based on your terms, what emotions start to show up? Maybe it's overwhelming. Maybe there's some nerves. Maybe there's some contentment. Maybe there's some bliss. Maybe there's some harmony. Maybe there's an absence of tension or presence, quiet, excitement, adventure, thrill. What is it for you? And sit with that. Start to listen to what your heart is telling you, not what your eyes, not what your stomach or the other parts of our body that we men sometimes like to think with. What does our heart tell us? What are the little moments that we can find joy in? And when you can do everything in your power to move towards that beautiful state of existing with contentment and bliss, ironically, I think that is when the furnace starts to get really stoked. And that call to action is so loud that you cannot ignore it. And all of a sudden, you will now become that driven, powerful man that you kind of really wanted to be in the beginning. And yeah, you know what? Maybe those physical trappings will start to show up. Maybe you will have and enjoy more financial success. You'll enjoy a more intimate and passionate relationship. You'll be connected with your kids and feel like you're doing as good a job as one can do trying to raise them in a world like like we're in today. And at the end of the day, when you put your head down, you can feel a sense of contentment and bliss, belonging, knowing that you've put in a good day's work, but moving towards something that is really going to light your heart up. And you can blow past those sort of material goals that you set for yourself and elevate yourself, evolve yourself into something more potent. So start with a vision board if you want, but I'm not convinced it's going to do it for you. Maybe it's a start, but have the courage to dig deeper. Have the courage to ask, why does this matter to me? What do I really hope that I'm going to get from this? And that exploration can be done with a coach or a therapist or on your own. But when you get deep into it, there, my friends, is the source of your power. And that is what my vision looks like. Working towards living my ideal day each and every day. Not ideal in terms of what life throws at me, but ideal in knowing that I can walk through this life in a way that is going to move me to where I need to be, to maintain and to augment the things that I already have in my world, to not take anything for granted, and that I have the drive when I need to call on it to accomplish phenomenal things. So get out there and get it done. If you're not sure how this works, reach out. I'm going to be starting an online group coaching for men soon. So if one-on-one coaching is either not your thing or financially not something that you're able to do, we're going to do a group session online. It's going to be powerful. We're going to be talking about all these things, about relationships, parenting, physical, fitness. We're going to bring experts in when we need it, talk about things like money, um, and fitness. And it's going to be a spot where men are going to be able to open up and have real honest, hearty conversations with one another through an online platform, through Zoom chats. Um, and I think it's going to be powerful. I've had the pleasure of working through and working with a lot of men's groups, and I've always wanted to start my own. So this is what we're going to do, and we're going to start with only 25 guys. The founding members are always going to set the tone and create the foundations. We're going to vet the first 25 guys. You're also going to have a significantly discounted price to enter in for the life of your time within the group, not one of those like, haha, you're here for 3 months and you can't live without it. So we're going to jack the price. It's a lifetime commitment to those discounted prices for you. So if you're interested, shoot me a note. Find me on Instagram, joshua.laycock. And yeah, it's going to be launching very soon. So get in on that and we will do the vision work. And for whatever a guarantee's worth in this day and age, I can almost guarantee you that if you show up and you do the work with us, you will evolve your life and you will start to really kick ass in areas of your world that you didn't necessarily think you had it in you to kick ass in. And my vision for all of you is that one day you can sit on your park bench with your person in your space, feeling as contented and blissed out and belonging as I do. So I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for listening. I hope that you have an absolutely marvelous day.